Hello everyone, welcome to the Cinema Analysis channel. I am Juzo. This channel will explore the hidden truths of films that are not usually revealed. Today I want to talk about JFK. This film is a masterpiece that explores the mystery of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. And I want to talk about another recent assassination. Normally, I suggest you watch the film before watching this video, but this time is an exception. This film is difficult to grasp its entirety, so you will discover many things from the film even after watching this video. So let's get started. There are many mysteries and controversies surrounding the Kennedy assassination. Oliver Stone, the director of the film, investigated each of them and made the film a masterpiece of entertainment. Immediately after Kennedy's assassination, Jim Garrison became suspicious of Oswald's coolness when he was arrested. 2 days later, Oswald was killed by a man named Jack Ruby. Dead man tells no tales. Garrison's team re-examined the case, and strange things kept coming up. Oswald was interrogated for 12 hours after the assassination without a lawyer present, and nobody recorded a word of it. With no record, what Oswald said is inadmissible in court. The trial may not have been expected from the start. According to the official view, Oswald shot Kennedy from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository on the day of the assassination. The parade was originally scheduled to go west down Main Street, but the route had been changed the night before. They went north on Houston Street, which crosses Main Street. Although they had to move in the opposite direction in one-way traffic, they were given special permission to do so. As there is a sharp left-hand bend, they had to slow down enough. And as they entered Elm Street and passed the TSBD, the first bullet was fired. In less than 6 seconds, Oswald is said to have fired his bolt-action rifle 3 times. The 3 bullets injured 3 people. One is a spectator. The other 2 are the governor and Kennedy. The second shot is said to have hit Kennedy in the head. And the last shot hit Kennedy and the governor's bodies 7 times. The line of fire is said to have bent. One of my favorite films is Wanted. A bullet fired from a specially trained assassin's gun bent and avoided an obstacle and hit the target. That could be possible in the real world. Jim Garrison noticed an off point there. Oswald could have fired as they headed north on Houston Street. After they entered Elm Street, the trees lining the street blocked his view and he could hardly see the car. Why was the shooting done after they entered Elm? It was the Elm where several snipers could be positioned. Both sides of the main street were flat lawns, so there would have been many spectators covering the parade, making it difficult to snipe. The man who changed the route to Elm Street was the mayor of Dallas at the time, Earl Cabell. His brother is General Charles Cabell, who along with CIA Chief Allen Dulles was fired by Kennedy because of Pig's invasion. Earl Cabell had a motive for sending Kennedy into harm's way. The explanation is included in the director's cut of the film, not the theatrical release. The investigation into Oswald continues. It is implied that he was a communist who had once defected to the Soviet Union and that this was the reason for his assassination of Kennedy, who had sent the army to Vietnam to prevent it from turning red. But why was Oswald allowed to return to the USA? From the beginning, it was unthinkable to accept a person who had defected to the enemy's country during the Cold War. This film poses this question. Marina, the woman he married in the Soviet Union, was also allowed to enter the USA. The film insists that Oswald was a government intelligence agent. He was probably a double agent. His return to the US would not have been allowed, at least if the Soviets didn't think so and find the value in using him. After Oswald returned to the US, he and his wife were introduced to Janet and Bill Williams. Bill was an engineer for Bell Helicopter. Through Janet, Oswald got the job at the Texas School Book Depository. From then on, things began to get dubious and ominous. Why would an intelligent man who spoke Russian take a simple work just to move books? Bell is a company that stands to make an enormous profit from the protracted Vietnam War. Shortly before the assassination, it became clear that many impersonators of Oswald were appearing and abusing Kennedy. Marina, Oswald's wife, insisted that she believed he had killed Kennedy. Much of the information given by ordinary citizens who happened to be there was deleted one by one. Jack Ruby, who killed Oswald, was seen driving a sniper who apparently shot Kennedy. This testimony was also ignored. On the contrary, the people involved in the incident died one after the other in dubious circumstances. Jim Garrison was interfered with in the investigation and harassed. The enemy manipulated one of his men to betray him. Then a person called X visited Jim Garrison. X claims to be a former chief of special ops. While X was suddenly sent to the South Pole, Kennedy was killed. He could have provided perfect protection and saved Kennedy. X insisted that the protection for Kennedy was too random. X says that Kennedy gave an order to strip the CIA of much of its power after the failure of Pikes Bay. He also fired Dallas. Later, the CIA developed Operation Mongoose to defeat Castro, but Kennedy aborted it. Kennedy's cuts in war spending severely damaged the arms industry. Kennedy tried to end the Cold War, but his death changed everything. There seemed to be a much bigger conspiracy than Garrison had imagined. X says that Kennedy was against the Vietnam War. Some people might disagree. Some people say that Kennedy started the Vietnam War. When did it start? There is an opinion that the trigger was the Gulf of Tonkin incident in August 1964 under the Lyndon Johnson administration. It was the incident that gave the U.S. the reason to attack Vietnam in earnest. The view that before the incident was just a skirmish is possible. The Gulf of Tonkin incident later turned out to be a fabrication. Some insist that it was Kennedy who started the Vietnam War, but the military intervention in Vietnam had begun in the Eisenhower administration before Kennedy. In fact, the number of U.S. military advisors increased in the Kennedy administration, the reason being the pressure from the U.S. Army or CIA. On the 2nd of September 1963, in the interview with Walter Cronkite, Kennedy said, "But these people who say that we ought to withdraw from Vietnam are wholly wrong, because if we withdrew from Vietnam, the communists would control Vietnam." Reading this passage alone, one might think that Kennedy believed the domino theory and sent a large army of his own accord. But Kennedy also says in the same interview, "I don't think that unless a greater effort is made by the government to win popular support, that the war can be won out there. In the final analysis, it's their war. They are the ones who have to win or to lose it. We can help them, give them equipment. We can send our men out there as advisors, but they have to win as the people of Vietnam against the communists. We don't have troops in the mass who are dying by the thousands." This means that the US government won't send many soldiers to die in order to intervene in another country. And on the 31st of October he told the press, "We would expect to withdraw 1,000 men from South Vietnam before the end of the year." But the plan never came to fruition because Kennedy was assassinated. It is implied that the reason for the assassination was that Oswald was a communist and Kennedy was anti-communist. But Kennedy claimed that he would not risk the lives of US soldiers to intervene in another country's sovereignty, even though he was against communism. And Oswald went to the Soviet Union as an intelligence agent. He does not appear to be a communist. Then he has no reason to kill Kennedy. Lyndon Johnson signed the National Security Memorandum 273, which reverses Kennedy's withdrawal policy, and the Vietnam War becomes a mess. Oliver Stone, the film's director, served in Vietnam for a year starting in 1967. He believed that the war his country had started was just, and he fought with the determination to give his life. The purpose of the war was to benefit the military industry. It was natural that his anger never subsided. Jim Garrison tried to expose the truth about Kennedy's assassination and the Vietnam War by putting a man called Clay Shaw on trial, but he failed. The film says that Kennedy was assassinated for the benefit of the US military or military industries. My opinion is a little different. Sure, military profit may be one of the main reasons, but there is another bigger reason. Have you ever heard of Executive Order 11,110? It was signed by Kennedy on the 4th of June 1963 to issue government paper money. If you have the right to issue money, you can get money. It is like getting a magic lamp. Kennedy objected to the private banks issuing the money, not the government. Kennedy was assassinated and then government notes stopped being issued. I want you to remember this. What I want to talk about this time is the assassination of Kennedy and another recent assassination. On the 8th of July 2022 at 11:28 a.m. local time, in front of Yamato Saidaiji Station, Nara City, Nara Prefecture, Japan, a statesman began his speech. Many people had already gathered there. About 2 minutes into the speech, an explosive sound suddenly occurred. Everyone turned around. Then there was another explosive sound. A man in the street threw down his gun and was arrested. The statesman, who was giving a speech, pressed his chest and crouched, then lay down. He was taken to hospital, but he didn't survive. The statesman's name is Shinzo Abe. He is a former Prime Minister of Japan, who held office for the longest period in Japan's constitutional history. The shooter's name is Tetsuya Yamagami. He gave a statement to the police. His mother is a member of a religious cult called the Unification Church. As his mother has contributed all the family's possessions, he has had to live an extremely difficult economic life. The suspect insisted that Abe had asked the Unification Church to vote for his party in elections and had given them every facility. He claimed that the assassination was an act of revenge. Since then, public opinion in Japan has changed completely. The image of Abe as an evil politician who supported a religious cult spread. Then people began to call for the rescue of the victims of the cult. Some people have doubts about the assassination. There is a view that Yamagami is not the real culprit. There must be someone else. I want to talk about this. After Abe was rushed to the hospital, an attempt was made to resuscitate him. After struggling for over 4 hours, the surgical team gave up and confirmed his death. Immediately afterwards, the doctor who operated gave an interview to the press. The doctor said, "There are 3 bullet wounds. He was shot twice at the base of the neck. One is almost the center and the other is a little to the right. One of them made a hole in the wall of his heart, and the other one came out of his left shoulder. The bullet that pierced his heart couldn't be found." This remark itself doesn't have ambivalence, though comparing with the footage taken there will show you strange point. At the sound of the first shot, Abe turned to his left. He showed the assailant his left side. He was not shot at the time, and the second shot was fired. If the second shot hit Abe, he must have been shot from the left. But the doctor said he was shot from the right. The footage contradicts the doctor's explanation. According to the result of the judicial autopsy published by the police, the cause of death was the loss of blood due to the injury of the veins under the collarbones caused by a shot to the upper part of his left arm. In short, the police insist that Abe was shot from the left. The hospital doctor claimed that he was shot from the right. The police claimed that the veins were damaged. The doctor explained that a hole had been made in the heart. The hole in the heart is a serious matter. On this point, their opinions are contradictory. They say the exact opposite. How could this have happened? There is no doubt that one of them was lying. Which one should we believe? We should consider which is more logical. The doctor's explanation is not contradictory. There are 2 entry GSWs and 1 exit GSW. That means there is still a bullet in his body, but they could not find it. It is not their job to carry out a judicial autopsy after death. On the other hand, there is a serious contradiction in the police statement. They don't say that the bullet came out of the body. The bullet must be inside the body, but they don't mention it. When a statesman asked about it, the police became aggressive and said, "We are also confused. And it is also important who has a reason to lie." The interview with the press at the hospital took place immediately after the operation. The doctor could only tell what he had seen. There is no reason to lie. Do the police have a reason to lie? What if the truth is what the doctor said? The real culprit must not be Yamagami, who was on Abe's left side. Someone else on his right side killed him. What does this mean? It means that the police failed to catch the real culprit. The failure to prevent the assassination alone is more than enough to leave an indelible stain. And what if it turned out that they hadn't been able to catch the real culprit? The dignity of the police would be shattered. The trust of the police is already questionable. They don't want to lose it anymore. The truth is probably exactly what the doctor at the hospital said. Shinzo Abe was shot from the right. There was a building in that direction. It is reasonable to assume that he was shot from there. Yamagami had fired twice. The first shot didn't hit Shinzo Abe, who then turned around. Shortly after, the suppressed sound was heard. At the same time, the open collar of his shirt fluttered. This is a terrifying scene. The suppressed sound is probably coming from a suppressor attached to the rifle. Yamagami's second shot came after that. His shotgun could never hurt anyone. The suppressed sound, the flapping collar. This is the truth of the bullet that took the life of Shinzo Abe. It is assumed that he was shot from the right building, probably from its roof, with a rifle equipped with a suppressor. To really protect a statesman, it is necessary to seal off every place where sniping is possible. The basic idea is to set up police snipers and shoot the attackers from there, but they hadn't done that. They could not even block an attacker coming from the ground. How could they be aware of sniper fire? Or perhaps they dared to ignore the possibility. You might as well watch the place where Shinzo Abe was shot in Google Earth. You must be surprised to see there are many places suitable for sniping. Presuming Oswald is not guilty, Yamagami is different from Oswald. Oswald insisted on his innocence. Yamagami believes that he killed him himself. What would have happened if Yamagami had not appeared? The real killer must have succeeded in sniping. Yamagami's appearance must have caused the real killer to pull the trigger reflectively. The shotgun surprised Abe's bodyguards, causing them to run to cover him. His appearance was rather annoying to the sniper. The only time a scapegoat is needed is when the real culprit needs to escape. When the police were dealing with the chaos caused by Yamagami's attack, the real culprit would have left the place elegantly. But the real culprit would have been able to escape without apathy. The muffler almost drowned out the sound of the shots. The people who saw the former Prime Minister lying down would have thought it was an illness or something. He was not shot in the head like Kennedy. It would take time for our people to realize it was an assassination. Nobody would have thought of sniping because it was in Japan, not in the US. The fact that the killer was able to capture the place where he was going to snipe means that the police didn't think of it. Even when Kennedy was killed, nobody thought it would happen. Not to mention the sniping in Japan. It can be completely ruled out that this is an assassination with police involvement, but it seems unlikely. Someone assassinated Shinzo Abe in a way that has never been attempted in Japan. The man called Tetsuya Yamagami tried to kill him at the same time, but failed. Although the police have already realized that they have failed to catch the real culprit, they are trying to make him out to be the real culprit because they don't want the truth to be known to the public. That's just my opinion. Then, what is the real motive of the real culprit? I mean the people behind it. I suppose it is the same as Kennedy's assassination. The film insists that the military industry killed Kennedy so as not to lose their profits. And in my opinion, it is the issuing of government notes. The FRB is not owned by anyone. The Japanese government owns its central bank. And the Japanese people are supposed to take control of their government in the name of popular sovereignty. But is Japan's democracy working ideally? Is its currency issued in the way people want? I consider there are problems actually. Shinzo Abe thought so too. He tried to increase the money supply and public spending, but he was defeated by the power of his enemy during his administration. After all, the consumption tax was raised twice under his administration, which brought deflation to Japan's economy. But he wanted to challenge again. There was an expectation that if his government came back, there would be a decent economic policy, but it was completely disappeared. I repeat, the right to issue currency is like the magic lamp. Those who try to get it would not be allowed to exist. Kennedy and Shinzo Abe could be the same. Lincoln issued government notes called greenbacks to cover the cost of the Civil War and was also assassinated. If you haven't seen the film, I suggest you watch it. If you have seen it, I suggest you watch the director's cut. I hope this film might be the clue to consider democracy. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked this video, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up.